thank you everyone for joining us today. Today we'll be talking about networking strategies and how to network over Zoom, with also a practice networking session towards the end. So hopefully y'all are looking forward to that. And I promise it won't be scary at all. It's just getting to know each other virtually and online. And before we start, because this is actually a Zoom meeting format instead of a Zoom webinar, we'd really appreciate it if you're able and willing to turn your cameras on so we can connect with y'all during this hour that we have together. But if not, that's totally okay. And then I think we should also have a live transcript feature towards the bottom of your Zoom. I'm not sure if it's live right now because I can't see it. Okay, thank you so much. Thank you, Krista. So yeah, without further ado, I'll just begin by introducing myself. So my name is Alina, and I am one of the peer consultants at SARC, and I'm joined with Sophie. You want to introduce yourself?
Hi, everyone. I'm Sophie. I'm another peer consultant, and on behalf of SARC, thanks for joining us today.
And we also have Carissa as well here with us today. If you want to introduce yourself real quick.
Sure. Hi, everyone. My name is Carissa Sorensen, and I'm the director of the Social Sciences Academic Research Center. Thanks for being here.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you all for being here today. Before we get started, actually, we're going to do a quick Zoom poll. So I'm going to launch it. It's just 3 really short questions about like, how did you hear about this event? What do you plan on learning today? And what you thought about the registration process. So I'll give y'all a couple moments to fill that out, and then we'll get started.
Is the poll live, Alina? I don't know if I see it.
Oh, yeah, it should be live. It says 4 out of 5 people.
Okay,
as
long as people are taking it.
Yeah.
Okay.
5 out of 5. Awesome. Thank you all for taking it. And with that, we'll go ahead and get started with the materials. So to start off with some networking basics. So networking is obviously really important for a lot of purposes. So to start off, the exchange of ideas can be one main benefit to networking. So when you're meeting someone new and you're talking with them, it's a really great opportunity for both parties to share ideas with each other about the work that they do, their passions, any interests that they have. In addition, when you're having that communication, it's a really great way to build relationships with people, whether that be, other students, professionals, faculty, etc. And also both parties can learn from each other through networking, and you can also put your name out, in the professional world when you network with other people, especially if, we're students and we're trying to break into a certain industry, company, or field. It's a really great way to get to know other people currently in that field who can remember, you talking to them and putting a good impression out there. Networking also allows for new opportunities. So this has happened to me multiple times where I talk to some friends who know other friends who are in the same field of interest as myself, and then they connect me with their friend, and then I get to meet new people through that way. But also when you're networking with professionals or people who are currently in a company that you hope to work for, they can send you, a job opening that they think you'd be a great fit for, and they can even offer you a referral when you apply to that company. So of course, these are just some of many networking benefits, but in terms of the types of networking, there are many types. And I don't know if there's any specific, I don't know if these are the right terms, but I know informational interview is, an actual thing where it's a very formal process of meeting a professional, meeting someone else. So an informational interview is learning about a real life experience of someone working in a field or company of interest. And the process of setting up an informational interview starts from finding contacts that you want to talk to, and then reaching out via email, LinkedIn, or other professional social media platforms, holding the interview, asking them questions during the interview, and then after the conclusion, following up with them and expressing your thanks and keeping that connection with them. Nextly, we have an informal networking. I don't know if this is the right term for it, but it's just talking about a way of networking with people during conferences, for example, or if you're in a student organization and you're meeting new people, that's kind of like informal networking where you meet someone and you share about yourself and you learn about themselves. So you ask them questions and it's kind of like an exchange of information. And then, of course, following up with them if you found that meeting to be really beneficial and you want to keep that connection. A good way to do so is to send them a follow-up thank you via email or whatever other way possible. And informal networking kind of varies in time. So I forgot to mention, but informational interviews tend to be 15 to 30 minutes. Usually when you're asking a professional for their time, be respectful of their limited schedules and offer or asking for 15 to 30 minutes is usually the normal. But if they do offer a longer period of time, maybe like 45 minutes to an hour, that's like, feel free to utilize that as well. But for informal networking, when you're meeting someone at a conference, for example, it could be maybe like a 5-minute meeting, but if the conversation goes really well, it can end up being like 20, 30 minutes. So when we're networking in general, we want to prepare questions. And some questions that you can ask, especially for informational interviews, is like, what is a typical day like in your job? And what makes a resume impressive in your field? So these are really good questions to ask if you're learning more about a field of interest, if you want to learn more about a company or a position, and what it's really like working in that role. Also, we have like, what is the culture like at this company? So that's more specific to one company. And if you're asking questions or networking with a graduate student, for example, and you want to learn how they apply to a graduate school program, you can ask them what made you decide which school and or program of study that you chose, and what specifically were you looking for. So of course, we all have different interests or wants and needs in a program or even a company. So understanding where the individual you're interviewing is coming from can be a really great way to learn for yourself and figure out what maybe you want or what you want to prioritize. With that, I just also wanted to mention, I forgot in the beginning, but feel free to type in the chat if you have any questions throughout our workshop, and we'll definitely address them towards the end. And going to networking opportunities. So there is a lot on the slide, and that's pretty much for a reason. We want to let y'all know that there are many networking opportunities out there. So for example, we can start off talking about conferences. So UCI actually has a all-university leadership conference for student leaders on campus from all departments of UCI. And this conference meets 3 times in the academic year, one every quarter. And I had the honor to participate in this academic year. It used to be in person, but this year it's been virtual, and it's a really amazing opportunity to attend workshops, but also to meet other student leaders on campus. Other conference opportunities include organization conferences, academic conferences, and professional conferences. So some examples of this is I'm part of a co-ed community service fraternity, Alpha Phi Omega, and even a professional business fraternity, Delta Sigma Pi, where both of them have like sectional, regional, and even national conferences where members from other chapters or other schools across California or even the US come together in one weekend or day, and they attend workshops, they attend meetings, and also get opportunities to network with each other. So there are special networking opportunities during these types of conferences where you're able to meet people in your fraternity or sorority. And also professional conferences are common as well. You can look into professional conferences in the major that you're interested in or field that you're interested in. And you should be able to join these kinds of societies and attend their conferences as well. Also, there are panel speaker and special events that a lot of resources on campus host. For example, SARC has 3 upcoming events that allow for opportunities to network. So in addition to today, we have on May 17th, which is a Monday at 11 a.m., we have an event called Been There, Done That. And Sophie has been really working hard to get this event organized, but it's an office hours with the SARC peer consultants where you get to just meet all the peer consultants at SARC and ask us about our experiences. We also get to meet other students within the School of Social Sciences as well. So I think it's going to be a really casual but really fun event. And then on May 18th, which is kind of sensitive right now, we have Amplifying Black Voices Professional Experiences panel event where you're able to ask questions in, I think, the Q&A to the members on the panel. And that's a really great way to begin, the networking and then connect with the panelists afterwards to connect or to continue that connection and foster that relationship. And then week 9, we're also collaborating with DAC, which is the Dean's Ambassador Council, for a dinner and discourse event, which is an event with some faculty members within the School of Social Sciences. And there you get to just have dinner together with faculty and then talk and meet faculty without that, power barrier that we usually feel when talking to professionals or even professors. Nextly, we have student organizations. So if you look on the website for UCI's Office of Campus Organizations and Volunteer Programs, there are so many organizations that y'all can join to meet other students with similar interests as yourself. And it's a really great starting point to spark a conversation with another student. And then the main purpose of us having this event on Tuesday today is because this Thursday, so in 2 days, the Division of Career Pathways is actually hosting an internship and career fair. So there are many opportunities like this, but for this Thursday's event, you're able to talk to employers, about yourself, and you get to learn more about what companies want or if there are any open positions. Lastly, if you've tried all of these opportunities already and you want more, you can always create your own networking opportunities. So the phrase is cold messaging or cold emailing or utilizing LinkedIn, which just means you might not have a connection with them yet, or you might not have met them, or they might not know you yet, but just sending a message to them, showing your interest in their position, their journey to get into that position, or anything that you're interested in that you want to learn about, and then just asking them for an opportunity to chat. And also, if you want to learn more about how to utilize LinkedIn to do so, we do have SARC webinars on LinkedIn. So currently one of them is uploaded on our SARC YouTube channel already. So feel free to check that out. Nextly, we have a slide about contacting professionals, which I know can be really intimidating and scary, but some general tips to keep in mind when you're contacting these professionals is that they are still human. They, outside of the work that they do, they have, hobbies that might, relate to our own, and we can connect to them in that way. And also you can start with people that you know. So maybe a family friend or your parent or guardian's coworker, or an older sibling or an older cousin. You can start with them, or even people in your lab or current professors that you have. So that's a really great way to start with common interests or a common organization, and beginning the conversation through that. And if we were in person and you're at a networking event, bringing a friend or bringing sorry, that is not gender inclusive, but bringing a partner with you to the networking event and asking a professional about their experiences can be a really great way to break the ice and make you feel more comfortable because you have a friend with you. And to get into the details about sending an email to a professional, you want to first introduce yourself in the email and why you're contacting them. So with that, you want to also include a brief background about yourself and your interests, and then tell them that you are requesting to hold an informational interview to ask about anything that you're interested in, whether it's their education, their journey, or any past or current positions that they're holding. And then for me, I prefer to ask for to provide availabilities in a follow-up email when they respond, but you can also put in your availabilities in this first email to them as well. And then always be mindful that these individuals are probably really busy. They have schedules that are packed. So sometimes they might not get to your email, or they might be busy at a certain time. So don't be afraid of that. Just follow up within a week if you don't hear a response from them. And then afterwards, just find someone else to interview. And always don't forget a subject line, because these professionals will probably be reading that subject line to know what's going to be in that email. Nextly, with LinkedIn, you want to do the same thing, but make it a lot more concise and make it short, because LinkedIn, when you're connecting with a new person, they have a 300 character limit. So it's not even words, it's characters. So it's not a lot of words to write, but we want to keep it short and concise. So to give y'all an example, this is an email that I sent with some parts cut out to a doctoral intern at the Counting Center. So for me, I'm a psychology and quantitative economics double major, and I want to go into neuroscience. So I was curious to know the clinical psychology aspect of just my interest in general. So I sent a doctoral intern at the UCI Counseling Center an email, and the subject line that I put was informational interview request, and then my name. And I said, "Dear," I put her name, and then I said, "I hope this email finds you well. My name is Alina, and I am a 4th year double majoring in quantitative economics and psychology, and I'm currently also a peer educator at the Counseling Center." So I made sure to specify the position that I'm in so that they get, more of a familiarity with what I'm a part of, why I'm maybe interested in interviewing this individual who also works at the Counseling Center. And I talk more about what I'm trying to do, and then why I want to interview her. And then in the second paragraph here, I say that, I am not interested in clinical psychology, but I would still really like to hear about her story and her journey. And in the past, I kind of gave some examples of my things that I've done in the past. And then I said that I noticed on the Counseling Center website bio that you listed these as your interests. So this shows that you've done your research for the individual and you're not just setting it up, without doing your research beforehand. And then just asking for whether or not they're available to talk. And then, of course, mentioning that you're thankful for their time, and then concluding with an email signature. Nextly, for LinkedIn, this is a sample LinkedIn connection request. So it's pretty short, but in this first part, you want to say hi, and then whatever their name is. My name is Alina, and I'm a UCI student, and then maybe even include things that you've been a part of, or anything that they might recognize. So I mentioned here UCI student because if you're connecting with a professional outside of UCI, they will know that you are an undergraduate student and you're just looking for, a connection to get to know more about them. And then I admire the work that you do, and I want y'all to specify the work that you're interested in. So instead of saying the work you do, specify, is it the therapy that you provide to undergraduate students, or is it something else relevant to the field of interest? And dream to be in your shoes one day. So of course, a lot of individuals in professional settings, they like compliments. So if you're able to compliment them, I think it's more likely that they'll say yes to this request and talking to them. So I would love to connect and learn more about your position. Thank you so much. And once they follow up, you can also further ask, about setting up that chat or that networking call. So here an example is, hello, I appreciate the connection. And after reading through your profile, I noticed that, and then insert whatever interests you that you want to talk to that individual about. Would you be available to set up a 15-minute, time slot to chat about whatever? And thank you so much. With that, I'll pass it off to Sophie to continue with tips.
Thanks, Alina. Okay, so Alina kind of talked about what networking is all about and what the first steps are. So now we're going to move on to what the actual conversation looks like and how you can make the most out of it. So first, create an agenda for yourself. And by agenda, I mean more of a list. So prior to the session or appointment, jot down some of the talking points of the conversation you hope to have. These can include general topics, questions, or statements. Having an agenda will allow you to keep track of what you've already talked about and what questions you've gotten answered. It can also help you break the silence in case the conversation dies down. On the slides, we have written, share the talking points through email. So for example, when you are requesting an appointment from the professional through email, you can include a single sentence like, I was wondering if I could ask you further questions about your research in X, Y, and Z. And I believe Alina kind of briefly mentioned this before, like sharing the purpose of the conversation. Bringing these topics up can give them an idea of what answers to prepare for you in case they need time to. So to summarize that example, sharing the talking points doesn't mean to literally list everything you have down on your agenda, but rather, letting them know, like, here are the general topics I'm interested in knowing about. Next slide, please. Thank you. So get dressed properly. So to determine what is proper attire for your conference or the appointment, you should consider two things. One, what type of networking you're doing, and two, what you would, wear in person. So during a career fair or a meeting with recruiters, you would want to put on, business or business casual, think of it as like an interview. And then, but, however, if you're meeting with a TA during office hours, conducting either like a really informal interview or just having a casual conversation, you might not have to go to that extent. So, casual attire is fine. Okay, next, manage the chaos. So, with the remote setting, this is especially important to keep in mind. Be sure to mute your microphone when it's not your turn to speak. Any unwanted background noise can distract you and the other person. Open your mic only when it's the appropriate time to talk. Find a quiet spot to the best of your ability and put away distractions like your phone and close all your other tabs. Again, if it's possible, you can close the door to avoid other people from appearing in your background, and this is where virtual backgrounds can also help. Again, I feel like it's not a make or break if you don't have a background or if people are wandering around in the back, if it's a casual conversation or if it's like an informal interview. But if it's feasible and like it doesn't take up too much time, then try to do it. Next, give your full attention. So once you have your appointment set up and it's time to conduct the informal interview and you're in the session, you're asking great questions, and at some point the answers might get kind of long, or they're going on about their a really long story in college, or like how they got to where they are now. It might become really easy for you to get distracted, but it's important for you to give them your full attention, which means maintaining eye contact, or in this case, camera contact, and looking engaged. This includes leaning towards them to indicate listening, or nodding your head in agreement, or either like signaling to them that you're listening. Body language can communicate more than words, and body language increases our ability to connect with others. So for this part, hopefully this won't be the last time you'll ever have a conversation with this person. If it isn't, that means, if you have other opportunities to talk to them in the future, then take, your time with the questions. Don't expect to learn everything about them in less than an hour or less than 30 minutes. Sometimes you'll find that you'll need to ask for clarification, or you want to ask follow-up questions, and don't feel like you have to rush through them. Don't be too confined by what your agenda says. That's only there to give you a general outline of what you might want to cover during the session. I think it's also worthy to note, I think Alina said this before, that the other person is human too, and they'll have different length answers. They'll have questions for you too. So bottom line, just kind of go with the flow. So stick to the allotted time. This one is self-explanatory. Be mindful of everyone else's schedule. If a specific end time was mentioned, I think before in a previous slide, we said 15 to 30 minutes for an informational interview. If that time is mentioned in an email that you sent, wrap up before said time. If it goes on for much longer, kind of look for body language for cues that, they might have somewhere else to go, or maybe during the session kind of agree on a set time you might want to end. And then lastly, wrap up the meeting by exchanging contact information if you haven't already done so, and be sure to thank them for their time.
All right, thanks Sophie for the general tips, and I hope y'all found that helpful. In terms of next steps in our workshop today, we're going to allow y'all the opportunity to practice networking with each other. So with that, we'll give you a quick guideline on what y'all should say to do this casual networking. So try to introduce yourself first with your name, pronouns, your major, etc. Anything that you would feel fit in this kind of situation. And then in terms of topics to talk about, you can talk about, common interests or hobbies that y'all share, or if you want, you can learn about each other's academic and professional interests too. And then make sure to stay curious, ask a lot of questions, and keep in contact with each other afterwards.